Hello. Today I'm going to be reading from a book of my own called For to Dawn. This is one of my own books, and the chapter I'm reading is called Dawn's Parachute Jump. Dawn stretched and yawned in the glare of the morning sun coming in unblocked through the big sheet glass windows. She popped to the loo and performed her morning business, then washed herself as thoroughly as she could in the little hand basin, with dispenser soap and no plugs, paper towels and an air dryer. On the way back along the corridor to the restroom, she bought a cup of tea out of the vending machine. I think one of the most exciting things I've ever done was my parachute jump. I saw an advert in the paper. He offered a free parachute jump if you raised a certain amount of money for them. I sent off an inquiry and soon got back all the details and paperwork. I had to get friends and family to sponsor me. Then when I had raised more than the £130 they required, I could send my forms in and book the training and the jump. So I started collecting sponsors. A friend of mine, Kelly, was doing it at the same time, and we aimed to go together. After a few weeks, we had got everything we needed together and booked a training date. Training was a couple of counties away, on a small airfield. Kelly and I agreed to go on her motorbike and camp on the airfield in my two-man tent. The brochure stated you could either camp in the airfield or stay in a local bed and breakfast. There was one pub and one village shop, and the training lasted all weekend. You arrived on the Friday night, checked in, and then got set up. Saturday was training all day. Sunday you jumped. That was the theory. The drive up there on the back of Kelly's bike was interesting, to say the least. I had only ever ridden pillion for short journeys before, and this one took over 2 hours. I went numb in places I didn't know I had. We put the tent up in the field where we had been told to go, having checked ourselves in and got name badges, and been told where to go the next morning. Putting up the tent was less than easy too, because the field was actually grass on bricks. It was very difficult to actually get any tent pegs to stay in the ground. Kelly suggested I had a go at riding her bike, as we had a bit of time to kill. I got on it to begin my lesson, but found, to my horror, I couldn't even hold it up, and the whole thing toppled over sideways with me underneath it. Kelly cracked up. We went out to the shop to get some pasties and fruit for dinner. Then later on we popped into the pub for a quick drink. It was a wild night and we worried the tent might blow away, but we hoped we, at least, were heavy enough to hold it down. In the morning we checked into the training area bright and early, mainly so we could use their bathrooms and get a hot drink out of the machine. Breakfast was crisps. Then the training started. We had to watch some films about parachute jumping and listen to a safety lecture. Then we went outside onto a grass area and practiced falling. We jumped off a small 2-foot-high wall and practiced bending our knees as we landed, while simultaneously folding up and dropping sideways into a roll. When the instructor thought we had that, we practiced it off a higher wall, about 4 or 5 foot. Then we went into the hall and there was this giant mock-up of half a plane, with the wing and the hole you jumped out of. We practiced our jumping out of that, standing in the door hole in the right position, and then jumping when told to go. We practiced wearing the harness and hooking up the static line. We learnt how the parachutes are folded and practiced doing the star shape for the free falling part on the floor. We had a lecture on what to do if your parachute doesn't open properly, and the 3 different things that can go wrong. You could have a partial, which was when the chute half failed to open, and that was the worst kind. If this happened, you had to pull the reserve and hope it didn't get tangled up with the partially opened chute. The instructor explained that there wasn't time in a 5,000-foot drop to cut the first chute away before opening the reserve, as it wasn't high enough. You just had to pray. You could have a total, in which case you just opened the reserve, or you could have twists, when the rope holding the chute got all twisted together so the toggles couldn't be used and you would just go wherever the wind took you. In this instance, you had to swing yourself in the opposite direction to the twisted rope as they spun undone again, like twisting the chains on a kid's swing. We pretend jumped and shouted 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, check canopy. We practiced using the toggle controls and looked at maps of where we might end up if the wind took us off course, and what to do in the worst case scenario that we ended up in the river. We learnt how to pull the reserve chute. All trained and ready and full of nervous excitement, we went away for another uncomfortable night on the brick field in the tent. The morning dawned windy, and we took the tent down and packed our stuff away with some difficulty. When we got to the training centre, they said that if the wind did not drop, we might have to postpone our jump until another day. We waited about for the wind to drop, but it just got worse, and the jumps were postponed. We were each given a voucher saying we had had our training and could come back for a jump any time, and off we went, most anticlimactic. The ride home on the bike in the wind was no fun either. Well, Kelly and I never seemed to be able to sort out a time when we could both go up to do our jump. So I rang the airfield one day when the weather promised to be nice the next day and booked a jump. I drove up there this time with my daddy, who I think was quite excited about it too. I was kitted up in harness and chute and loaded into a little plane with 10 strangers who were also doing their first jumps. We sat in the plane while the instructor attached all our static lines. He then gave us all a number. I was number 2, which meant I would be jumping second. All the other occupants of the plane were men. The plane took off and we had trouble holding still, sitting on the floor as we were. We got to 5,000 feet and then circled round to the correct position for jumping. 2 people could jump at a time before the plane had to circle round again. The instructor shouted, "In the door!" and guy number 1 got into position. But he couldn't jump and had to be unhooked and brought back into the plane. We had to go round again as he had taken all the time for 2 jumpers. Then we were ready again and I heard, "In the door!" I felt my stomach drop into my boots. I was almost paralysed with fear, but somehow I got myself into position in the door. My God, it was a long way down to the little patchwork of fields. The instructor shouted, "Jump!" I thought for a split second, I don't want to, but I can't let womankind down. I have to do this. And then I jumped. I completely forgot to shout 1,000, etc. Instead shouted, "Oh shit!" Daddy said he could hear me from the ground where he was watching. The few seconds of falling before the chute opened seemed to go on forever, and I truly hated that part of it. It was too fast and I was scared out of my mind. Then the chute opened and I felt myself jerked back upwards as the wind caught underneath it. I remembered to check my canopy and blessed relief it was opened properly. I was going to live. Then I noticed I had twists. That felt like a minor thing compared to all that had gone before in the previous seconds. I remembered my training and flung myself around the opposite way to untwist them. That was exactly like on the swings, except thousands of feet up, and crazy better. Then I had control of the chute and took hold of the toggles. I looked down and saw the white cross marked on the airfield, just a little dot away to my left in the distance. I toggled round until I was heading straight towards it, and then relaxed. Around me was total silence. I was travelling through the air with no mechanical assistance, and the world below me looked beautiful. The bright colours of the patchwork farm field shone up at me. I felt like a bird. I was so happy. It was such an amazing feeling. It went from being one of the worst, scariest experiences ever to one of the best, most peaceful and beautiful experiences ever. Fortunately, the best bit lasted the longest. I felt the world was a perfect, unspoiled place in those minutes. Then the ground was getting closer, quite fast. I wasn't too far off the arrival target, so I concentrated on my landing technique. Bend my knees, then the field was there. Hit, drop and roll. I was down. I'd done it. I was both elated and choked with emotion. I ran around my chute to stop it getting air in it and dragging me along, and gathered it up. I started walking back to the building. We had been told that when we got to the airstrip we were to run across it, not saunter, in case we had not noticed a plane coming in to land. We had also been told to undo the leg straps of the harness after we landed, to facilitate leg movement. I forgot this last instruction and began my run across the runway. I promptly fell flat on my face. I rolled back into the grass, unclasped my harness at the legs, got up, and then successfully ran across the runway. Then I was back at base, taking off the kit and putting it in the used box to go away to be repacked. It was all over. What an incredible experience. I'm never going to do it again though. Once was enough. I'll remember it forever.